Tonight on Q2, road rage turns to deliberate homicide.
As hard as it was to sit there, but just being here, we're just grateful, and nothing brings him back. But we get to be here, and we're grateful for that.
One family receives justice tonight, while the suspect, who claims self-defense, now is possibly staring at life in prison. Plus, digging out from a storm for the record books.
When I got home Friday night, my sidewalk was clear and there was nothing on my car. And now it's alive.
Lewistown covered in nearly 2 feet of snow, with Showdown ski area seeing nearly 5 feet of powder. We'll take you there. The MTN 10 o'clock news starts right now.
From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us on this Monday night. I'm Russ Riesinger. Our top story, a verdict delivered after 5 hours of deliberation this afternoon. The jury finding 31-year-old Jacob Troxel guilty of deliberate homicide. That case dates back to 2022 when a road rage incident turned violent just outside our Q2 studios, with Troxel accused of shooting and killing 29-year-old Michael Duran. Troxel claimed self-defense, but the jury disagreed, with Troxel now facing a possible sentence of life in prison. Our David J. heard from Duran's emotional family members after that verdict was handed down.
The incident happened right about here on 4th Avenue North in the summer of 2022. The defendant shot the victim right around here, a couple of cars out here, as well as emergency crews. And the surveillance video at the station picked that up, which was used as evidence in the trial.
To the charge of deliberate homicide with a weapon enhancement. Guilty.
A jury found 31-year-old Jacob Troxel of Billings guilty in the shooting death of 29-year-old Michael Duran.
I was thankful for justice to be served.
Ashley Woodward was Michael Duran's girlfriend, and she sat through the trial.
The grief feels fresh. He's still gone. And so I'm glad that somebody who's able to do something that violent and horrific is not on the streets anymore. I'm thankful for that.
Michael's family was also in the courtroom and responded to the verdict after the jury deliberated for a little more than 5 hours.
I'm so grateful, and I think our logical brain is grateful for the video, because had that been a block different, we'd be in a completely different situation.
The incident was caught on a KTVQ security camera aimed at 4th Avenue North and North 32nd Street. It began with a road rage incident between Troxel and Duran before escalating to violence that ended Duran's life. Prosecutors suggested that Troxel's actions were unprovoked and unnecessary. Troxel's defense attorneys say it's important to look at the entirety of the video, saying he feared for his life and his actions were justified.
We thought that the video spoke for itself and that there was a clear break in the fight that occurred, and that Jacob clearly disengaged.
The jury and Jacob Duran's family looked at the video differently, and after 2.5 years, a coroner's inquest, and a trial, they finally have justice.
How many times did he have to get assaulted before he was able to actually defend himself? And that's what I think the jury understood, and they came to the correct verdict, I believe.
I'm sending much my love to his mother, who's still out in LA right now.
Michael Troxel's family and friends also were in the courtroom for the trial.
They're upset. They're still, they're in shock, and that's to be expected. I think they're going to be processing this over the next few days, weeks, months.
At the end of the day, that there were 2 families who have been ruined now.
He was a really incredible man, and I think anybody that met him and knew him knew that.
In Billings, David J., MTN News.
On the heels of a stabbing back in March of 2024, Metro Park is now implementing a clear bag policy in hopes of making that venue safer. First Interstate Arena will conduct a soft launch this month, with full enforcement starting in February for all events. Under the policy, drawstring bags, purses, backpacks, and fanny packs will no longer be allowed. Clear bags that are 12 by 6 by 12 are still allowed, as are small clutches and 1-gallon clear freezer bags. Diaper bags and medically necessary bags are still permitted, but will be subject to search. This policy comes after a 15-year-old boy stabbed an 18-year-old inside the arena during the Southern B Divisional basketball tournament back in March. Metro Park says this policy is not in direct relation to that crime, but rather meeting national safety and security standards.
We are trying to get to industry standards with everything that we do here at Metro Park. One of those things is safety and security. Obviously, in the world that we live in today, we want to make sure that we are adhering to whatever those specs are, and this is just one of those industry standards that we feel the need to institute and to go along with to make sure all our patrons are safe at our events.
The arena will be handing out clear bags at the Harlem Globetrotters event on February 6th. Coaches, athletes, and cheerleaders are still allowed to bring in duffel bags through the back of the arena. A big night at the Montana State Capitol with Governor Greg Gianforte delivering his State of the State address. That speech hitting on a number of major topics, including tax relief. Immediately following, the Democrats and Freedom Caucus delivered their rebuttals. We'll start our team coverage with MTN's Jonathan Ambarian, who has more on the governor's address.
This is the start of Governor Greg Gianforte's second four-year term and the start of the third legislative session he's been in office for. And his State of the State address Monday promised to continue the direction his administration has been going.
The governor of the great state of Montana, the Honorable Greg Gianforte.
Gianforte touted economic growth over the last 4 years and said the state is seeing a budget surplus because his administration has been fiscally responsible.
And I'm proud to say, thanks to our shared efforts and successes over the last 4 years, the state of our state is strong.
Gianforte said he wanted to tackle Montana's affordability crisis by returning more tax dollars to the public. He called for another drop in Montana's top income tax rate and for a property tax homestead exemption to shift the tax burden away from primary residences. He said in order to get the homestead exemption implemented for residents this year, he wants to pass that bill by mid-February.
Now, I know that's a tight deadline, but the Department of Revenue needs some runway to implement this rate cut for Montana homeowners in 2025. Montanans are counting on us to get this done, and we should.
Gianforte called for investing in pay increases for new teachers and for highway patrol troopers. He also endorsed converting Montana's judicial elections from nonpartisan to partisan, saying courts had sided with the far left in blocking Republican-sponsored bills.
And Montanans have a right to know the values and principles of the judges they elect. Let's bring light to the darkness.
Gianforte said the federal government has been, quote, mired in dysfunction during the Biden administration, and said he's ready to work with incoming President Donald Trump, having met with him last week. In Helena, Jonathan Ambarian, MTN News.
Following Governor Greg Gianforte's State of the State address here at the Montana State Capitol, the Democratic minority in the Montana Legislature offered their traditional rebuttal. It was delivered by State Senator Shane Morajo of Missoula in the Senate chambers.
He pushed back on the governor's plans for Medicaid expansion, public school funding, judicial reform, and the rising cost of living in Montana.
All of our proposals center around the need to make Montana affordable again. Affordability is a cornerstone opportunity, yet between housing, property taxes, childcare, and healthcare costs all on the rise, too many Montanans are struggling to make ends meet. Myself and my fellow Democrats are ready to turn the tide.
The Democrats weren't the only group to offer an alternative to the governor's address, with another vision coming from his own party. Republican members of the staunchly conservative Freedom Caucus, led by Chairman Jerry Schillinger, held a press conference highlighting their legislative priorities and similarities and differences with the governor's agenda.
It's easy for Republicans to be socially conservative. I mean, we typically all unite on that. But what's difficult is when it comes to being fiscally conservative. We think that our direction isn't shrinking government. We're continuing to grow government at too fast of a pace. So that's one of the things that we have to work on this session.
In Helena, Tom Wiley, MTN News.
Lewistown residents are busy digging out tonight. That city received nearly 2 feet of snow this weekend, prompting authorities to issue an emergency travel alert. That alert is now over, but most businesses in the city were closed today, and schools are expected to remain closed through tomorrow. A snowstorm like this is obviously nothing new in Montana, but some residents say This is the most snow they've ever seen at once.
When I got home Friday night, my sidewalk was clear and there was nothing on my car, and now it's a lot. So
the car's buried. That's the bugger I got to get there. I can't figure out how I'm going to get through that.
Well, some areas of central Montana received even more snow from this weekend storm. Showdown ski area in the Little Belt Mountains south of Great Falls has received 56 inches of snow in the last week. This video was recorded last night. At that time, 42 inches of snow had fallen, with the resort receiving 14 more inches overnight. The resort is typically closed Mondays and Tuesdays, meaning skiers and boarders will have to wait until Wednesday to enjoy all that fresh powder. But it's certainly welcome news after the ski area experienced its worst snow year in 88 years of operation last season.
Let's take a look at the almanac for the day. As you look with the Stockman Bank weather cam, we started off at 27 degrees, well above the seasonal average, and ended up pretty close to average for this time of the year. Check out where we were on this date last year. The record low, 26 below zero 1 year ago today. But we did have a wind today up to about nearly 40 miles per hour. We have some additional snow flurries moving into southeastern Montana this evening. We'll take a look at that coming up.
At least 24 people have now been killed in the devastating wildfires ravaging parts of Southern California, with dozens more still missing tonight. More than 15,000 firefighters are battling those blazes, which have burned thousands of structures and some 40,000 acres of land. And that fight is far from over tonight, as the National Weather Service is warning the Santa Ana winds could bring winds up to 70 miles per hour overnight and into tomorrow. The damage left behind is expected to be in the billions of dollars. Scripps News and the Scripps Howard Fund are teaming up to provide relief for the Southern California wildfires. You can text Scripps to 50155 or scan the QR code there on your screen. Every dollar you give goes directly to those impacted by these devastating fires.